All right then. Here we are, the committee of the whole meeting. Yes, I call this meeting open at 9:36 p.m. Let's go on to the adoption of the agenda. Councillor Guillemot, I move that the agenda be adopted as presented, seconded by Councillor Zant. Thank you. Any changes, modifications to the agenda? None. Disclosures of pecuniary interests? None. Delegations? We've run through all delegations. Those items that we transferred from one meeting to another, do we need to remove them from the agenda? Fine, fine. What moved and seconded for the adoption of the agenda as it now stands? All those in favor? Carried then. Yes, of course. So we've moved and seconded. Councillor Guillemot moved and Councillor Guillemot seconded. So we remove 4.1, 4.2. We also remove 5.1. We've dealt with those points at the previous meeting, and I was going to modify the item 6, notices of motion, and change that notice of motion or those notices of motion to announcements instead. Fine. All right then. All those in favor of the amended agenda as it now stands? Fine, thank you. Let's go on now to item 5.2, letter dated May 9th, 2017 from Mr. François Faucon, requesting to rename the Clarence Creek Arena. Councillor Lalonde, André. Yes, Mr. Mayor? Yes. In fact, it was last December, Mr. Mayor, that Council had asked to ask local associations within the village of Clarence Creek to see whether we'd proceed to a name change for the Clarence Creek Arena. If you take a look at the attached documents, the town clerk inserted letters and correspondence that I obtained during the course of the past few months from different associations, and the majority of those preferred to keep the name as it now stands. However, there's amongst those in the community, there are some that think that we should recognize those who built the arena and gave a lot to the village and to the arena, those who worked within the Clarence Creek Arena. This is something I discussed with Mr. Jubainville when we reviewed the petition, and the document is an agreement, but the department is in agreement. You see, the Clarence Creek Arena was built for the residents, was given to them, and then Clarence Creek took over the management of the building. So your suggestion is to put up a commemorative plaque, yes, and also we wish to recognize those families that contributed to the construction of the arena and those that contributed to the sponsoring of different events that were held at the arena. Well, maybe we could defer further conversation or further decisions to the Heritage Committee. They will take the necessary decisions. Then. Well, look, you know, we're dealing here with a building that's simply called the Clarence Creek Arena. Could we not give it another name, the name of someone who contributed a lot to the history of Clarence Creek? Maybe. Well, I believe that many associations said no in giving it a new name. At the onset of the year 2000, especially when the Avalanche gave the Avalanche hockey team, should I say, won the Stanley Cup, and everyone had the same agreement that they wished, had agreed that they wished to keep the name as it stood. Others thought of giving it the name of a NHL hockey league player that hailed from the Clarence Creek area. Well, I believe the Heritage Committee does take care of this particular matter. Well, we should put up a commemorative plaque, or yeah, maybe we could do something with that. Yes. just defer it to the Heritage Committee. Maybe a name like Jean-Charles Lavictoire might be proper. Who knows? Aren't there any isn't there a historical background behind that center? Just put up a plaque that would detail at least the history. You know, the building was built at such and such on such and such a year. It was. And that was because of a lot of efforts put forward by a lot of communities, by a lot of surrounding communities and individuals also. One of the suggestions that came up with my discussions with different associations is that the department might consult with those associations that have a history with the Clarence Creek Arena. We're talking here about area-based volunteers that would come up with something great for the arena. But that falls within the Heritage Committee's mandate. So let's send that over to Community Services. And sir, I believe that you do have quite a chore ahead of you, or a task, should I say, ahead of you. So and then you can send it in turn to the Heritage Committee for further action. All right then, let's go on. Announcements. We still have to send a letter in answer to Mr. Faucon's request. Fine. Councillor Lalonde, you had an announcement to make? Yes, indeed, Mr. Mayor. This year, we are hosting the second edition of the Country Jamboree at the Clarence Creek Arena. And the official pamphlet has been sent to all members of Town Council. We've received this pamphlet today. Many well-known artists will be in attendance during the course of the week of the 18th to 22nd of July. So if people want to attend the Jamboree, you do so by purchasing a $60 ticket that gives you the right to attend all events. It's really not all that expensive. Last year, we held a Jamboree last year in cooperation with the Community Services. We had about 200 trailers that were parked, and this year we're expecting over and above 300 trailers or RVs, so we secured additional space with the primary school representatives there, so we'll have sufficient space allotted to those attending. It's going to be a quite busy week from the 18th to 22nd of July. Tonight, Mr. Mayor, this is probably my last meeting attending as a town councillor. In a few weeks, I will not be a resident of Clarence and Rockland. I will be residing in Ward number 4. Even though I've been sitting here for only 15 months, it's been quite a rewarding experience for me. I was witness to a lot of professionalism and devotion on behalf of all town councillors and town administration. It was an honor for me to work with all of you, and particularly I was honored to work with a genius with regards to municipal policies here. Mr. Jean-Marc Lalonde, you're a true servant of the people. I'd like to thank you all, Mr. Desjardins, and all my fellow councillors, Mr. Darch, Leonard, Mrs. Chouanière, Mrs. Ouellette, Saint-Jean and Saint-Pierre. Are you forgetting anyone? No, I don't believe so. For having greeted me so warmly in this particular environment. I wish you all great success and happiness in your future projects. I'd like to thank also all citizens. Thank you all citizens who sent me all your emails of support. Thank you. All right. Any other announcements? I'd like to thank Mr. Mayor, the Department of Community Services for setting up the games for retirement people. I attended here along with Mr. Lalonde, Mrs. Chouanière. I received a lot of great comments as to what occurred. I just wanted to make a tiny comment. Someone's mom did a great job here, Al. That someone will remain unnamed, but she did a great deal of work. And good work, yes. They had a great team behind all of the events that were set up then. All right. Item 9.1, development charges update. Councillor Zant. Yes, Mr. Mayor, whereas the City of Clarence Rockland's current development charge bylaw number 2015-13, came into force on February 1st, 2015 for a term of 5 years, and whereas the municipality must review and update its development charge bylaw by no later than February the 1st, 2020, and whereas the update process requires extensive analysis of required growth-related infrastructure, associated costs, and the timing of implementation based on growth projections, be it resolved that the Committee of the Whole,
the development charge update timetable attachment 1 contained in report admin 2018 -018 and excuse me, the development charge timetable will be posted on the city's website in order that stakeholders are aware of the process and the associated milestones for the update.
Seconded by Councillor Guillemard. Questions, Mr. Mayor? I would have waited to take action on this until the new council is elected. Are we going to be hiring a firm and thereby commission a study with regard to this? Well, the deadline for this is in December 2019. Well, we have to take action as of February 2020. If we approve this on behalf of the new council, we're only receiving this recommendation. That's all. We're not taking action upon it. We're only receiving this recommendation as a recommendation. We're not going ahead with any further action. That's right. That's right. Yes. It was approved. This has been approved in our previous budgetary talks. But we're talking about, hiring consultant firms and engineering fees that are involved in all this. I've performed a lot of research in the past few months, and I'm convinced that our town employees can do the same thing. Mr. Kehoe?
Planning department and a 100 times the size of Clarence Rockland has hired consultants to help them with their study.
I'd just like to say to the record that there are many adjustments in the legislation in between each of the studies, and the consultants stay on top of all of these adjustments to the legislation. There's a lot of analysis that has to happen, and they have good recommendations to make. City staff are still very much involved in the process in terms of getting information. But there's a standard way that the consultants put the report together. The development community is used to looking at that standard way, so when they compare between municipalities, the information is easy for them to compare.
To wait for a new council, we would be too late.
Well,
Pass the date.
it was either last meeting or the meeting before, council approved the funds to hire Hempson.
Yeah.
So we're already starting down that road. This report is intended to simply provide council with an update and to outline the work plan that we're going to be doing. The approval of the new development charge will be done by the new council. We're doing the groundwork right now.
You're just preparing the study for the information needed for the new council.
What's the estimate cost?
We got a budget.
It's in the budget, I know that.
Oh, 75,000, Mr. Mayor. 75,000, 50,000 was for the DC study, and 25,000 for policies specifically related to development charges.
What question?
And it's paid for by development charges, so it doesn't come out of another reserve fund.
Tout le monde en faveur?
All those in favor? Carried then. Thank you. Discharge of firearms bylaw. Councillor Grimard? Once more. Yeah. You excel in reading recommendations. Yes. Newly proposed bylaw to regulate the discharge of firearms within the city limits of Clemson Rockland. I move that the report CLERK 2018-10 and that the Committee of the Whole acknowledges that the clerk will initiate a public consultation process by posting a copy of the proposed bylaw on the city's website for the purpose of inviting public comments. Will be brought to the Committee of the Whole for further consideration, should I say. Yes, I believe that we consulted with the counties, Mr. Prévost, did we not? Yes, especially we consulted with the La Rose Forest folks also. And that includes also the discharging of firearms behind the CIH complex, right? That's right. All those in favor then? Carried. Thank you. Let's go on now. The awarding of a contract for revitalization of Laurier Street. Councillor Lalonde. The Committee of the Whole recommends that Council adopts a bylaw to authorize the Mayor and the Clerk to sign a contract with CSW Landscape Architects Limited in the amount of $97,305 for the execution of the Laurier Street Revitalization Design Plan. Seconded by Councillor Zant. Any questions? All those in favor? Carried then. Thank you. Next item, Emergency Services Plan. Councillor Chouanière, you seem to... you look lonely on your end. Yes, Mr. Mayor, that the committee recommends that Council adopt the proposed emergency plan. Seconded by Councillor André Lalonde. Question, Councillor Grimard. Will this plan be translated in French? Because that, as it stands right now, it's only drafted in English. Mr. Wilson, you're the person that's going to be translating all of this into French? One word at a time. I guess he'll hire a spokesperson to speak on his behalf, just to, yes indeed, just to come to grips with the situation. My question is that there are a lot of partners involved in the emergency services. They're aware of what we're doing, of the plan we're coming up with.
I read the plan. Our partners that will link up with us and help us out, they're aware of this new one, and it corresponds to what they will deliver as service, and they're aware of delivering those services to us.
Yes and no. A lot of those services are sort of normative in the industry. But until this plan's passed, I haven't distributed it to other agencies yet. So the OPP recently asked for our emergency plan. The only one that has been passed by council is now several years old and does not incorporate IMS or ICS structure.
Okay.
So as soon as we get this approved and passed, then I will absolutely share that with other agencies.
Do they make some requirements though? That some steps maybe that have to be mandatory, that have to be included in our bylaw?
Through the mayor, typically not. Every agency is required to have its own emergency plan. So the police will have their own emergency plan as to how they're going to unfold. The idea is that ours would mesh with theirs. This plan that's being proposed to you tonight is largely based on Ottawa's. The biggest changes are obviously some of the department names. So we don't have some departments that Ottawa has, and so we've got to shuffle some of that stuff around. But I don't anticipate any issues.
Okay.
Other questions?
To implement it? No comment. Thank you.
No implementation costs? Thank you. All those in favor? Carried then. Thank you. All right. The Committee of the Whole recommends that Council approves a bylaw to authorize the Mayor and the City Clerk to sign a contract with Atrel Engineering Limited for the design of the water main replacement and paving work on Laurier, Garreau, and Pouliot streets in the amount of $90,370, excluding HST. Seconded by Councillor Chouanière. Questions? Councillor Grimard. Why is there such a discrepancy in prices? In those that tendered, I believe we chose the lowest tenderer. Some some tenders alluded at $371,000. We have close to $200,000 worth of difference here. Well, Mr. Mayor, Atrel is a local company. They have a lot of years of experience with that particular network. So, Councillor Zant, I believe that the residents owe their thanks to this outfit. Well, I'm very happy that we're going ahead to replace the water main there because we've had a lot of problems in previous winters with this particular network. Thank you. Let's go on to protective services. I move that report number PRO 2018-013 in regards to monthly statistics be received as information. Seconded by Councillor Chouanière. That deals with protective services. Any questions?
Areas in the report. Is it to highlight your response time that differs from the standard? Like I just want to know why you highlighted some calls in yellow.
Through the mayor to the councillor's question, I highlight calls that are daytime, Monday to Friday daytime responses. So when I'm tallying the statistics, the averages in the main report, those are the lines that I'm looking at to average per zone, if that makes sense. Okay. It's just to help me when I tabulate this report. It's easier for me just to export it in that format.
And I know we had a lot of structure fire in Rockland, and I'm going to slip out to the side of it. Is there a policy that, and I know there's most likely none, that obliges the residents to tear down the burnt buildings? And if not, what are the options that the city, like I'm thinking Edwards, Cabo S2, Edwards S2. It's really an eyesore for people arriving in town taking Edwards to go to our beautiful city.
Especially Caron, what the contractor was saying, he's got 2 lots next to that, and he can't sell them
So
because of this.
I just want to know if we need a motion from council, but I don't know what exists, so.
Can, do we have anything for this?
Mr. Mayor, under the building code, we can, if it's a structural issue, if it's not deemed to be structurally unsafe, we don't have a lot of resources to enforce that it's tear down. We have very few times have actually gone through that process. We have to go to court. We have to obtain court approvals to be able to tear down a building. So it's not something that a municipality does lightheartedly.
I sent an email to the CBO.
Yeah.
I can't remember if I actually copied you on that. I apologize if I didn't, but I think you're in the know. I asked her the same question because Monsieur Saint-Garcia asked us about, lots being built beside this burned down garage. I'm still waiting for an answer. I understand CBO is very busy, but I do need an answer to be able to get back to someone on that. And when I believe I spoke with Mr. Wilson, you had talked about that there is a way of condemning a building. Once it is condemned, then we can tear it down. I don't know if we have to go to court to do this. Are you familiar with, I don't know, your past history on this?
Yeah, so through the mayor, ultimately that's Mr. Lenhart's comments there. So under the Building Code Act, they have the ability, if the building is structurally unsound, they can condemn the building and say this building is not structurally safe to be in or around or on. There is a process that the chief building official then can go through to try and order the building demolished to make the area safe. But I guess the big challenge is every property owner should have the right to go through their insurance company and try and get those properties fixed or repaired or rebuilt. Yeah. And so typically it's not looked upon favorably for municipalities to come in and try and force them to speed that process up. And the example would be the one over here that we had on Landry that was there for quite a period of time before the insurance company finally dealt with it.
It's not my worry is not necessarily about speeding it up. My worry is, like Mr. Grimond said, do we have a plan to be able to say, once everything is exhausted and the building is just standing there and everybody else, no insurance claim is paid out, or maybe some are. I think it looks dilapidated. It makes our city look dilapidated. So,
especially the one on Main down at Edwards there, the guy I see put plywood on the outside. The place is 3/4 burned. Why is he putting plywood on the outside?
Is it still under investigation?
you have to prevent people from going in.
Yeah, but this is where the walls
could go in anywhere.
Well,
so yeah, one of the requirements.
Technically on that one.
is that the property owner has to secure the property against reasonable entry to stop youth, as an example, from crawling through a building that's been partially burnt out. So we require that when we turn the property over to the property owner, they or their insurance company or their agent secure the property to try and prevent a child from crawling through someone. Nothing will ever stop someone who's determined from getting into that property, but the idea is to just stop the kids that are playing around from crawling through. That's their requirement, and then it's up to them and their insurance company to work on an acceptable resolution for how they're going to fix that.
And I don't want to impede in private lives, but is it seen as a good thing that we would call the owners of the succession of these residents and see if a plan is put together, just to give updates for people living around? Like, you know, if a neighbor knows that, okay, I've been looking at this for the past 6 months, but I know in 2 months there's a plan to tear it down or to fix it. I think it really helped the residents living around.
Well, my question was going to be about the same. Have we contacted the owners of those buildings? There's 4 of them. But the second house on Edward Street is not secured at the present time. Anybody could go in at the present time. And we have to make sure that it is secured.
That was my question actually. I wanted to know whose responsibility it would be, because if it's like a pool. If you have a pool in your backyard, you have to make sure you have a fence and you dock it. Yeah, kids can go on top of the fence, but if you did your due diligence, you know, then we're okay. So if those buildings are left with easy access for children to go in and teenagers and whoever wants to, I'm afraid we would be responsible for that if we don't act on it. And also, I would believe that sometimes the investigation may take some time, So sometimes it would be the police who says you cannot do anything, you cannot move anything, you cannot touch anything.
I think they're all done, They are all done?
Yeah, the city the city's investigation and the police investigation on any of those files is complete, and we turn the property back over to the property owner.
Oh, okay.
It is very common for their insurance companies to want to send their own insurance investigator to those properties. That may take some time, and then often filing that claim through their insurance company can take quite some time to resolve before a decision is made about whether the insurance company is going to rebuild or settle with the property owner and pay them out or whatever that's going to look like.
Sure, Leonard?
Well, the question was whose responsibility. So it's under the building codes. We have to make sure that's boarded up. So we call the property owners at that time and we inform them that it needs to be boarded up if it's not done by their own means. So if they haven't done it, the city can then go ahead if they don't board it up and then add on their taxes. In the particular case on Edward Street, it was boarded up. They applied for a demolition permit. A demolition permit was given to them, and now they're in the process of demolishing it. And we've contacted them again to make sure that it's safe again at this point. So they're proceeding with work on it.
Chief Wilson, one of the things that you've discussed with us at budget time was that you wanted to accelerate the process of home inspections and stuff like that. Where is that within your report? I only see fire inspections completed 6. I'm sure it's not housing, it's commercial or something like that. So can you brief us on where we stand right now?
Through the merit of the councillor's question, we've assigned roughly 1,000 homes to be visited this year to each of the stations. Those assignments were handed out at the end of March. So far, the volunteers have not gone out to start that process. So 0 homes to date have been visited. It was discussed with our executive team last week to try and get the prevention captains actively out there working on a plan to try and get through those houses. So we're continuing to follow up on that and try and get that process going.
Okay.
When a property is demolished, there should be put some kind of temporary fences, movable fences around it. Would it be safer? Because if you start demolishing and you leave at night, and then you can't have anybody could get hurt on the property.
Mr. Mayor, through the building or the demolition permit, they need to ensure that it's structurally sound, just like building a house. So just like any new construction, they're not always boarded up through the process. In In this case, it's the same. It's the same thing. So as long as it's deemed secure and it's deemed structurally sound, not saying that this particular process, however, is being done as intended or as quickly as intended. So our department is communicating with the property owners to see where they are with the demolition of that property, but only because there's a demolition permit, not because it's burned.
Alors, est-ce qu'on demande à quelqu'un?
Well, are we going to ask someone to contact families either by email or by snail mail to determine where we're at?
Find out if these families are going to do something, but one has got a demolition permit.
Okay, that's good to know. So I don't know which one, but I know it's on the boards, I guess.
It's just that we need that kind of information for the residents, because we get phone calls and,
Yeah, I mean, we haven't, it hasn't not gone unnoticed that it looks very bad. I turn there every morning and going, oh, what are we going to do about this?
Maybe you can just let us know, send a letter to the owners themselves and let us know what the response is. And
sometimes just a phone call to have a verbal and then send the council an email saying this address, we're looking at this much time, and we can reassure the residents.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's go on now to the next item, the daycare detailed budget status report. All those in favor? Thank you. All right. So we're on to 9.7. Yes, I move that report number FIN 2018-022 be received as information. Seconded by Councillor Levert. Any questions? Councillor Guillemard. I know that a few parents spoke to council with regard to daycare and property-related difficulties. The Saint-Mathieu complex. We never received any updates as to this. Well, the school board told us that they were going to repair everything there this coming summer. I spoke to the school board authorities, and if I recall, Mr. Joubinville, they gave us a few details as to that. That's right. I don't have any further information, but they're in the process really of changing venues. They're just waiting for school to finish. They're going to extend the playground area too. All those in favor? Fine. Let's go on now to the budget guideline report for 2019. Councillor Levert. That council receives this report and provides staff with direction with respect to the tax rate increase for 2019. Well, of course, we can defer further discussion as to this. The new council will be tackling this issue. Yes, so it's deferred. All those in favor? I do have a question. Go ahead. I note that we've put some financial pressure as well as pay-as-you-go pressure on ratepayers, and I know that the pay-as-you-go contingencies will be honored as the year goes by.
Bring it back to, I guess, last year's guideline report or the one before. And pay-as-you-go again is taxing residents today so that we can pay for capital items in cash and not have to borrow. So we want to make sure that we're increasing the amount we tax today so that we lessen the amount we have to borrow into the future. So we're trying to build up that amount, again, so that we lessen the amount we have to borrow. Every year we come to council asking for an increase of about $500,000. So $200,000 going towards our fleet, $200,000 going toward our facilities. We've introduced a new one this past year, and that is to our industrial lands, so $50,000 going to industrial lands. Again, this is building up funding, so in the future we can pay for something in cash and not have to borrow. So it is a true pressure of $500,000. Council has decided at times to maintain it to some extent, but they've also reduced it, and that's not something we recommend. Yes.
All those in favor of deferring this to a further meeting? Yes, seconded by Councillor Levert. Fine. Seconded by Councillor Levert. Councillor Grimard, I thought, had seconded before you did, in any event. Let's go on to other items. Any questions for department heads? We had a discussion based upon a meeting I attended with residents of North Chamberlain Street concerning speeding vehicles in that area. I sent you some emails with ideas to circumvent this problem. There's also a trail that cars use along Industrial, fine, to travel from Woods to Chamberlain. Now, I'm wondering if I could obtain an answer, at least obtain further recommendations or ideas from our department, and to apply those ideas and solutions to North Edward Street. Yes. We fell short of available time to identify what needed to be done in that particular area. There are some things that could be problematic to implement with regards to signage and so on and so forth. We're in the process of drafting a plan that will be sent to individual council members. Could I have a timeline with regard to this? I think we'll try to do this within the coming week. Yes. I think that we're going to lay down gravel that will allow sufficient space for a car to go by, and I'd ask that further paint be applied on streets, saying that there's a 40-kilometer speed limit that is in force here. I know that you and I like to slow down, but when you're 20 years of age and you're driving a sports car, you're trying to determine how much noise you're going to make and how much lawn and sidewalk you can destroy. I sat down one evening to see those cars go by. It was quite impressive. It was an impressive sight, but it was a dangerous situation at the same time. I have 3 tiny questions directed to Mr. Leonard. You know, I sent you an email concerning residents on the corner of Saint Laurent and Saint Joseph, and this has not been taken care of yet. Yes, this is amongst those projects that will be taken care of readily in the next few weeks. Could we please advise residents there that corrective measures will be applied? All right, Dr. Corbeil, the south side of the street, in between the sidewalk and the fence, there's a lot of space there that needs to be maintained. Well, Mr. Roussel answered that this could be done either today or in the coming days. Oh, and I know that the cedar hedge there, I know that on the south side of that street, are we going to cut this down, and when will that be done? Well, the same rule applies with this here, the same conclusions apply with this. I believe that action will be taken very soon. We'll send an email to those concerned, and also we'll determine what needs to be done, and we'll do it. Do you have an idea as to when that will be done to ensure continuing communication? Yes, absolutely. Councillor Chouanière? None. Councillor Lalonde? When do we replace those burnt out streetlights? Because this situation with some streetlights has been ongoing for the past 3 months. I was told, it's going to be repaired within 6 weeks, about 2.5 months ago. Now that those 6 weeks have come and gone, and then they told me, well, we're going to take action. And also the pylons. Are we going to pick up those gosh darn pylons that are, placed smack dab in front of Max Milk? There are 2 at the corner of Shoppers Drug Mart. There's another one at the corner of Saint Jean and Laurier. There's a whole bunch of pylons strewn all over the place, laying around there. I was told that those don't belong to us, but we own the streets on which those pylons are erected. Mr. Mayor, we recognize that the pylons are not ours, but we're following up with the contractor involved so that he can pick those up, and he will. I received a message from Mr. Roussel about 10 years, or should I say 10 days ago, 10 days ago. So just send me his reply then, Councillor Levat. Mr. Leonard, we've finished spreading calcium in that area. I have to confirm this, but I believe so, yes. Their residents phoned me up and I told them that the work of spreading calcium should be over and done with by this coming Friday around the Cannon area, Cannon Road area. I'll look into this, but I believe this work should be done very soon. When people build a house and a sand truck goes by there, who takes care of cleaning up that area? The residents do. But if there's too much stuff on the streets, you just phone up the bylaw enforcement officers and they'll clean that up. Just drive by Rochon Street, you'll see what I mean. All right then. That's it. Adjournment. Fine. Called at 10:18 p.m. That's for the Committee of the Whole. Thank you, folks.